I would like to welcome everyone to the regular city council meeting of Tuesday, November 7th. First on the agenda, we'll call the meeting to order and approve the agenda.
So moved.
Hold on just 1 second.
I'm going to make one change to the agenda.
Number 5. Front page.
Yes, it is number 5. I'm sorry, I thought it was number 7. On number 5, which is the continuation of the appeal by Red Crows LLC, Jamie Lerma. That appeal has been withdrawn.
We could approve the agenda. Please.
Thank you.
So moved.
Okay, all in favor?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Before we have public comment tonight, I would like to have a moment of silence for Dr. Bob Wayne. We haven't had a meeting since his passing. For him, please. Thank you. Okay, so first on the agenda, we'll have public comment. Remember that we give our public comment with kindness and respect and under 3 minutes. So is there anyone that would like to speak? That's in the audience? Okay, is there anyone online that would like to speak? If you could raise your hand, please. Okay, thank you. So we'll move into our first agenda item, which is ordinance number 2309. And it is an ordinance amending the municipal code chapter 6.10 prohibition on attracting and feeding wild animals. We have the staff report, please.
Yes, ma'am. October 1st, 2019, council adopted the ordinance 19-06 regarding the feeding of wild animals. Section 6.10.030 states violation of this chapter shall constitute a misdemeanor and be punishable on a conviction by a fine of not more than $500. The city cannot designate, as it turns out, the city cannot designate a violation as a misdemeanor. On October 10th, 2023, council reviewed the violation language with a consensus to remove the misdemeanor language, but retain the fine of not more than $500. That's the staff report.
Okay, any questions for staff?
And this was put through by the former council, right?
The
500, the not more than $500 to feed a wild animal.
It was 2019.
So this is slightly off topic, but did anybody else get a letter from Karen Anderson from the Cannon Beach Bunny Rescue?
No,
She did reach out to me and had some concerns about this, some of the text of the ordinance, and wanted some clarification about whether the ordinance applied to our bunnies, who she pointed out are not wild, but they're feral. So she wanted clarification on that, and she had concerns that the ordinance as a whole was not clear on that topic, the way it referred to wild animals. So I was hoping that I gave her information about the meeting. I was hoping she would be here to speak for herself. But I just wanted to mention that.
I'm glad you did.
I don't know if it's something that
Let me,
we'll look at some point, just to put it on your radar.
Ashley, do you have any thoughts on that? Ashley is our attorney. She's the one.
Yeah, she's
I'm
there.
here.
Okay.
So I was just going to that right now, looking at the definition of wild animal. So is that the question, whether or not a
Bunny, the wild
bunny?
animal.
I mean, it is listed as one of the included animals. So such animals might include, but are not limited to bear, cougar, wolf, coyote, ferret, possum, raccoon, rabbit, skunk, squirrel, or weasel. So, I mean, I do believe that the non-domesticated, untrained bunnies who are in the city would qualify as a wild animal under this ordinance.
Yeah, I think she is saying it's contradictory to be calling them wild, but since it spells them out specifically, I think.
Yeah.
Would a feral cat be a wild animal then?
Or any non-domesticated or untrained animal, which because of its size, natural disposition, or other characteristics constitutes a hazard or menace to persons or animals, or is likely to damage property. So yes, so a cat that is a feral cat could fall under the auspices of this ordinance.
I think she may have more to say, and I would prefer to let her say it at some point about whether that's appropriate or not. But I've done what I wanted to do and just bring it to your attention.
And just because I'm already speaking, a slight clarification. So the City of Cannon Beach Municipal Court is not set up to hear misdemeanors or crimes. Our municipal court is only set up to hear violations. Chief can probably give you a little bit more information about that as well, but there's different protections when you are adjudicating crimes versus violations. So we could do it. It would just constitute restructuring of how we do our municipal court.
Like a motion? Sure. I move to approve the first reading of ordinance number 2309.
Second.
Okay, I'll read by title only. Ordinance number 2309, an ordinance amending the municipal code, chapter 6.10, prohibition on attracting and feeding wild animals. Any discussion?
Well, I'm
Other
concerned.
further discussion?
Well, yeah, I am concerned about the definition of a wild animal. I'm concerned about the things brought up in that letter. I'm sorry.
I don't think it's part of this, but I think it's something.
But it is part of this, because that's what the statute is, this is what the ordinance says, is that you cannot feed a wild animal. And if you do, you can be fined up to $500. And I'm
not sure we're gonna rewrite.
I don't feel like it's,
I don't think we're gonna rewrite the ordinance tonight.
well,
This is just changing
I'm not saying,
misdemeanor.
Ashley, where does the definition, does that occur in the previous ordinance?
Yes, so under consideration tonight is just amending the section regarding violations or penalties. If the council wanted to look at the substance of the ordinance, we certainly could do that at a later meeting.
okay, so if I voted no on this, I'd be voting no against not making it a misdemeanor. So, but okay, I understand that. All right.
Okay, we ready for a roll call for the first reading?
Counselor Hayes,
Yes,
Counselor Kerr,
Yes.
Counselor Ogilvy,
Yes.
Counselor McCarthy,
Yes.
Mayor Knopf.
Yes. Okay.
I move to approve the second reading and adopt ordinance number 2309, or do we have to read it?
No, you're doing fine.
Okay,
Keep going.
I think I did it.
Okay.
Did you get the motion?
I got the motion.
Ordinance number 2309, an ordinance amending the municipal code, chapter 6.10, prohibition on attracting and feeding wild animals. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Council President McCarthy,
Yes.
Counselor Hayes,
Yes,
Counselor Kerr,
Yes.
Counselor Ogilvy,
Yes.
Mayor Knopf.
Yes. So ordinance number 2309 has been adopted and will become effective 30 days from adoption. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to a resolution, resolution number 2323 for the purpose of repealing resolution 2312 and establishing water, wastewater, and storm drain utility rates.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like for us to hear from Ron Logan, who's the Assistant Finance Director.
Everyone, counselors have a staff report related to the ongoing discussion about the utility rate study, specifically water rates. And just to briefly recap, you spent a couple of work sessions in September and October discussing this. And at the most recent one, you instructed FCS group to take a look at rates between years 2 and 10 in the rate study to make them more equitable towards those that use less water. And they're working on that. That's ongoing. And I think that will be available perhaps at your next council meeting or perhaps in January. You also asked us to bring a resolution to adopt the year 1 rates only, water rates in the utility rate study. So that's what's before you here. And be happy to try to answer any questions if you had any. I believe Doug is also.
I just wondered if you were aware of the city of Gerhart just did a adoption of a new water rate ordinance that encourages the conservation of water and by making it a different than ours. That's what I'm saying. So that might be something to look at as well.
When-
Probably a tiered rate system.
Mhm.
When does council need to approve the 24 rates?
I think we determined that if it isn't approved tonight, we still might have time if it was approved in December. But there is some work, of course, that needs to be done in order to change all the billing and whatnot. But I believe it could be made as late as the December meeting.
Well, I think Councillor Kerr had some very good ideas on this.
Well, that wasn't me.
But was not you?
I mean, the piece of paper that was included with the possibilities.
Yeah.
No, that was actually Bruce Coe, my husband.
Oh, okay.
He's a retired CPA. I am not.
All right. It had your name on it, but I think I did see.
No, yeah, it was not me. I could not have figured that out.
Yeah, I think you did a really good look at this and asked some very good questions. And I don't think things are equitable in looking
Yeah.
at his points.
Yeah.
And I think there are probably some adjustments we could make based on his suggestions.
And
That would still be revenue neutral.
Right.
To get us to the,
And the end goal.
yes,
yes, what I think the approach we should take is go ahead and raise the rates for this coming year. And then when we get the information from Doug's firm and the great information that Bruce Kerr supplied, that we really study it.
But when you say this coming year, do you mean just the January rates of just the water rates, nothing else, just the water? And I think it was, what percentage was it?
23.
23% in January of water rate raising for this.
For next.
Yes, and part of the reason on January, that's when we start doing the budget. And we need to know how much revenue will be coming in order to be able to do the budget and to budget for projects.
And we can't do it later in December. According,
We said December, we could probably do it, but after that, we're into the budget.
okay,
But I would think that to look at the particular information that Bruce put together, it's not going to be something that's going to happen in a work session. I mean, it's going to be something that we turn over to Doug and his team, and they do the analysis on it and provide us with comments, that kind of thing. So I don't know, maybe it could be turned around during December sometime, but I wouldn't be surprised if it takes longer. And then on top of the time would be the decision-making time on the part of the council.
If it helps to put this into a little bit of perspective, we're going to enact the rate increase. We're looking at having to raise water rates anyways.
right, because it was put off before.
No,
By the
Exactly.
previous
And
council.
If we were to follow the plan, there'd be a set of increases for the next 10 years. Is that correct, Ron?
Yes.
Yeah, so if we enact the 24% now, I mean, we have a chance to restructure it as has been suggested, but in all likelihood, it's gonna go up and beyond that.
Oh, I understand that. It just seems like such a huge jump, but you know,
Yeah, I mean. His good points, residential users currently paying 50.5% of the billings, but use 43.6% of the water. And commercial users pay 47% of the billings, but use 53.7%. So yes, I guess we can send that information to Doug and he can kind of recalibrate to kind of get us a little bit more where we were trying to land. And maybe the 23%, even with this, an adjustment to make it more equitable wouldn't really be that much
I think
on the 1 year.
I think it was put off by past councils, put off the raising of the water rates when it would have been raised previous to this. And they put it off and put it off. And so now this council is stuck with having to do 23% for 2024. And I really not pleased about it.
10 years ago, they
I was gonna
kept
say,
saying,
Yeah.
previous.
Yeah, well, thank you very much.
most recent council continued to raise the rates because we had to,
Okay.
but yeah, when I was covering 10 years ago, I listened to them every year talk about, oh, well, no, let's don't do it now. Let's don't do it now.
Yeah,
Are we saying it's too close to make an adjustment? We should approve the 23%.
I think what happened is I went back and listened to the tape because I was concerned about that and we did agree unanimously to do that.
That's right.
Yeah, no, I
Last
recall
meeting.
that too.
Yeah, and so, but I kept thinking, oh, maybe we didn't, hoping we didn't, but we did. So. And it's just for that first raise. And after that, I'd like to see the numbers worked a lot differently.
Okay, is everybody ready to make a motion?
I move to approve resolution number 2323 for the purpose of repealing resolution 2312 and establishing water, wastewater, and storm drain utility rates.
Second,
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Counselor Kerr,
Yes,
Counselor Ogilvy,
yes,
Council President McCarthy,
Yeah,
Counselor Hay,
Yes.
Mayor Knopf.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
Scared you there for a minute, didn't we?
Oh, shucks, come on. Okay, next on the agenda is agenda item number 6. Oh, wait a minute,
I believe it's 5.
sorry. How about presentation on Cannon Beach Farmers Market annual report, Tracy Abel?
Here we are. All right, I'm gonna just sort of fairly quickly through this. So, picture of one of our vendors. The mission statement, this is all on the website, but I did want to just point out that we are primarily a grower sellers market. That's why you don't see crafts and art and things of that nature. Our goals, make available a variety of fresh farm products, promote local farmers, ranchers, fishers, and artisan producers of food and perishable farm products, and to foster community activity promoting social and healthful lifestyles. Oh, can't see the top of it. So this is our counts. At the very top.
I can't get the header to go anywhere.
There we go. So our visitor count 21,312, give or take a few, we have people counting. Sometimes they start talking to people. So, I would probably add more to that. Always contingent on the weather. I tried to, we keep track of the weather. Obviously, July and August are our best months. Starts out slow and then sort of ends once kids are all going back to school. We did miss 2 markets. Well, not 2. We had to cancel one, unfortunately, and then we didn't have one on July 4th. These were our vendors. 33 spots were available, but we did have a couple of vendors who did have 2 spots, paid for 2 spots. So that might have, you know, if you counted the booze, you might think, well, there are a few that were short, but these are our awesome vendors. This was a quote from one of our vendors. We love this market, very well organized and staffed. Some of the things we did, we increased our social media presence. We secured 800 in music sponsorship. We had 4 Paws on the Beach, donated dog treats for all of our furry friends. We did an anonymous vendor feedback survey and we had great feedback from our vendors to help us with next year. And council approved to waive the F&B food tax, which was very much appreciated by our food vendors. And I'm hoping that will spill over into more food vendors next year. Had quite the list of musicians that played, and these were our amazing sponsors who allowed for all of these great musicians to play during our market. Community groups, Cannon Beach Arts Association, the Food Pantry, Head Start, Friends of Haystack Rock, the History Center, and Cannon Beach Library, and KMUN. Each profit can have up to 2 dates, and we provide the tent, table, and chairs at no charge. I think that's a really nice addition to our market. Our volunteers are our market VIPs. Collectively, we're 740 hours. People donated their time. So the list of all of our volunteers. And I also wanted to, again, give a big shout out to Public Works and the Cannon Beach Police Department, because they're the ones that are setting this up in the morning before the volunteers get there, making sure the signs and the cars are all gone, and we couldn't do it without them. It's just a few goals that we're kind of looking at. Location, you know, with construction possibly happening, we're just kind of keeping up to date with the city on where might be the best potential spot, or if we can leave it. Talked about parking. I know a lot of locals do complain about really not being able to, so we're going to come up with some ways maybe where we could do some quick 15, 20, 30-minute parking just for farmers market. Encourage more local participation. Some more signage, more vendors. We're talking about changing the hours a little bit. Some of the vendors preferred the 12 to 4, and that might help us with more parking if we wanted to approach the Legion, and because they would open at 4, and so maybe we'd be able to use their parking lot as well. So that was one of the ideas. Look, maybe a local chef market tours. I was at the market all the time, bless you. Or every Tuesday, and the chef from Stephanie Inn and the chef from Castaways shopped almost every Tuesday. So I'd like to kind of get some more of our restaurants involved, look at more sponsorship opportunities, maybe some winter pop-ups, and Vibe I just put on there because that was something that a lot of people sort of recommended to me, like, why can't we be like a party atmosphere? And, why isn't like Manzanita? And, there's many reasons why we aren't the same, but I do believe that we could come up with some ideas that would make it more of a community gathering spot during the market hours. Why do we need a local farmers market? Several, a few reasons here: access to healthy, fresh, nutritious food, stimulate local economies, give farmers greater control over their economic lives and prices. But the last one I kind of made a little bit bigger, and they enhance social engagement and community well-being. I think that's really important for our small community. And that's it. So I just wanted to say thank you to the mayor, city council, city manager, and all the staff here at the city.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Tracy.
Tracy, I have to thank you for an excellent first year.
Oh,
Stepped right in and did a great job. It was fun to volunteer for you. So
thank you.
Very well organized.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And it was a lot of fun. And so hopefully we'll get to be here again, but we're always looking at what we can do.
thank you, Tracy.
Okay, good job.
Okay, so next on the agenda is item number 6. Approval of findings of fact and conclusion for design review board's denial of design review for 2308 the Orlock Architects applicant on behalf of Paul White for the building of a new accessory dwelling and even above a new garage.
Hey, Mayor, that one has been, is that, I'm sorry, I was thinking the next one, my bad.
Hi, Mayor, Council. As you're aware, at the October 3rd meeting, we had looked at an appeal from Paul White for the construction of a new home and an accessory dwelling unit. Design Review Board had denied the request and the applicant made an appeal application to council. Council had approved that and requested findings to be developed by staff. Those are presented before you. Probably the thing that might need to be looked at most closely is just the condition of approval that everyone had discussed. And it's indicating prior to issuance of a building permit, if the applicant seeks to remove the tree labeled as S-1 on the attached site plan, the tree removal application shall be reviewed by the city council to determine whether or not the removal of S-1 would be consistent with the requirements of the city code. So just wanted to verify that that indeed was the condition that the council was after, but the findings are presented for you and can answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions?
I think this is what we said.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
I agree.
We ready for a motion?
Should I keep it going?
Why not?
May as well.
I move to accept the findings of fact, conclusions, conditions as presented regarding APP 2306.
Second,
Any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Counselor Ogilvy.
Yes.
Council President McCarthy.
Yes.
Counselor Hayes.
Yes.
Counselor Hurd.
yes,
Mayor Knopf.
Yes. Okay,
Could I have one more thing? I'm thinking that you'll probably see that application at the next meeting.
oh, okay, good, great.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so next on the agenda, we have the scope of review determination for CETA Incorporated on behalf of the city of Cannon Beach to appeal a design review board decision. And before we start our discussion, I would just like to say that I would like to have the hearing on the record and schedule the appeal for December 5th, but prior to that appeal hearing, have a community meeting here at City Hall where we allow our citizens who would like to give further comments about the rejuvenation project to be allowed one last time to speak before we hear the appeal. So I just wanted to put that out to the council before we have our discussion.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I'd like to have an open community meeting first.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
agree.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay. So do you want to give any staff?
Nope, it was just going to indicate that the applicant has requested it on the record, which is something that you've indicated. And that I believe the date, as you had mentioned, was going to be December 5th for the council meeting to review that appeal.
Okay. So do we want to discuss when we want to have the public meeting? We have three choices.
Yeah, so you have 3 dates available. We have November 28th, 29th, and 30th on hold current.
Have any prep?
What date of the
It's
week?
Monday,
is-
Tuesday, Wednesday.
It's actually Tuesday.
Tuesday, Wednesday.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I just
Tuesday.
do the same thing. So Tuesday, the 28th, Wednesday, the 29th, or Thursday, the 30th.
Okay.
My only preference is we get to delete the other 2 dates, but I have no preference between the 3.
So do we want to go with the Tuesday night since that's kind of
I'm
a
fine. with that.
regular night together? You know, do we want to break that up?
Tuesday, the 28th.
Tuesday, the 28th. So we would have a public meeting on Tuesday, November 28th at 6 p.m. here in City Hall and allow our local residents to
Weigh in.
weigh in before we have the design review board appeal. Okay,
Yes.
we okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so do we need a motion for the review to be on the record only?
No, it doesn't
Okay.
consent, so we typically
Okay.
do it at work session.
Okay. So okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, next we have an intergovernmental partnership agreement for the e-permit system and services.
Answer that. Yeah, so right now the city has a intergovernmental agreement with the state to do our e-permitting. And over the years, there have been modifications that the state has done with individual communities with the agreements. So basically what they're trying to do is get it uniform and consistent with all of the communities that they're dealing with through the state. So it's kind of a housekeeping situation. This agreement would supersede and amends and replaces in entirety any pre-existing intergovernmental agreements with the e-permitting system that the city presently has. I worked with Heather Martin, one of Ashley's colleagues, who also had the opportunity to review the agreement, and they had no comments, and we were recommending approval of signing the agreement.
Can I ask you a question about it? So would that mean that all planning applications and building permits would be available on Excella?
Right, yeah, I mean, right now, we're strictly doing building. So I think right at this point in time, there's a lot of like hyperlinks to a lot of those documents, but they are, I know working with Robert that there's a lot of stuff that is out there for the public to review on Acela.
I think, can I answer your question? It's not gonna change from what you have now.
Right,
Oh, we're not gonna have more
You're not
information.
gonna have more information.
no,
This is
Oh.
just a housekeeping item to keep good things going forward. In the
Thank you.
future, though, that's something Steve
Right.
would look at is to have more things available on the public side. So you can do searching more, but this is separate from that.
Okay. Right.
what I wanted to do was at some point in time, have an opportunity to speak to someone that works here to show us what things are all available to better understand how we could potentially improve things. So I'd like to have the opportunity to, at some point in time, reach out and sit down and understand more about what else is offered by them.
Because I just want to say that, like Clatsop County is a good example. I can go on Clatsop County on Excella. I can put in, anybody can put in pending land or land use applications and then put in 186 as the record number for Clatsop County and get every single application in the whole county, including drawings. I can just look at them online, and it's fantastic. So you really can keep abreast of everything that's happening in an area. And
One of the things that I think we can try to do better is get more things electronically. Right now, we're still getting paper. And so you have to put the whole entire plan set into our plotter. And I'm not saying we can't do that, we can, but it takes a significant amount of staff time, and I'm sure you'd prefer us doing other things and feeding that, but that's one of the things that one of the reasons why I'd like to have the opportunity to potentially meet with someone down the line to see what types of things we can do and maybe to provide that type of information at some point in time. But I'm still learning it but I could reach out to him and have that discussion.
Bill Hendrickson at the county could probably give you a lot of information.
Yeah, and I work with her through the housing, so she could probably give some good feedback on that.
Hey,
Steve, how much is this going to cost? It says compensation and payment, not to exceed compensation, the maximum not to exceed compensation payable by the jurisdiction to BCD under this contract. Any allowable expense. Dollars.
Right. So right now, the compensation is nothing. I shouldn't say nothing. There is a certain percentage or a surcharge that the state receives from the city for building permits that come to the city. So that surcharge is part of what's used to pay for the systems throughout, from communities throughout the state to the state so the state can offer this service. So the only time that 50,000 would come into play is, say, for example, you get off of Acela and then you want to get back on it, they get reimbursed for putting you back onto the system.
Okay. Is there any reason why we would go off of it?
You don't like it and you found something better that you want to use.
Okay. So there are competing services out there?
My understanding was, prior to this being offered, the city was using, I'm not sure exactly what the other system was, but there was a private company that provided those services to us. And then this was offered, and because of those surcharges and things like that and how it got paid for, was the reason, my understanding as why the council went this direction.
And then I had another question, on the list of things that are offered or could be offered through this. I don't, maybe this is just a general list, but I don't see the city excise for affordable housing on here.
So that's something that is manually entered for each permit that it's applicable to.
Okay,
So when we do a building permit, it does, because not all building permits are charged and not all cities charge it, you have to go in and add the affordable housing excise. So it's a fee that's manually added.
okay,
So it's not tracked through the system. All of our affordable housing dollar amounts are tracked through Cassell, not through e-permitting.
okay,
We bill it through e-permitting, but it's tracked in Cassell. If that makes sense.
okay. So if I went through here to see what all these were, I wouldn't see that then.
And
I wouldn't see the excise tax.
as far as a service they provide,
Yeah,
no, because they don't monitor that.
okay,
Because that's just a charge we add, like I don't know, a water heater, we just add the charge
okay.
and that's it.
What do you need from us?
We would just look for your authorization to approve the agreement.
Anybody have any other questions?
You need a motion?
Go for it, Mr. Motion.
Steal it from Brandon. I move to approve the intergovernmental partnership agreement with the state of Oregon covering usage of the e-permitting system.
A second?
Okay, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Hayes,
Yes.
Counselor Kerr,
Yes.
Counselor Ogilvy,
Yes.
Council President McCarthy,
Yeah,
Mayor Now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have the city manager evaluation. And I would assume Ashley's gonna take this.
Yep.
Hi, Ashley.
Hi, good evening, Council City Attorney Ashley Driscoll. So I have the next agenda item, and originally what my agenda item was to start the process for the city manager evaluation. This item always sneaks up on us throughout the year, and originally when Bruce, Jen, and I started talking about it, we were trying to find a way to squeeze it in the last couple months of the year. One of the things that we have been talking about since putting this agenda item on the agenda is that a majority of the council members are new to this process. So upon further consideration, what I would like to propose is actually just have a discussion with the council this evening about what the city manager evaluation process looks like, and then to bring back the actual process at the start of the new year when the council is going to have more time to actually do this process. So does that work for the council? Are you guys okay with switching instead of starting the process now, but delaying until the start of the new year? I've already talked about this with Bruce, and it works for him as well.
I think it's a great idea.
Talk about the process.
So let's talk about the process. So this is a process that we have used ever since I have been your city attorney. The city manager evaluation process can be cumbersome, and it can take up a significant amount of time. From the city manager's perspective, it is also difficult to have 7 supervisors. Typically you just have one supervisor who is giving you direction. But how this structure is made up is all 5 of you supervise Bruce. And so part of the process is to work with the council to identify a unified voice to be able to communicate with Bruce. So that is sort of the overarching The overarching goal of this process is for the council to meet, to discuss, the performance of their city manager and to be able to provide Bruce feedback in a meaningful, consistent, and unified way. So typically what we do and I'm proposing that we do here is first review the criteria to which the council will use to evaluate Bruce. Over the years, we have used this criteria with some amendments each time around. So because we're not rushing this process through, what I would like is to ask each one of the members of council to read through the criteria and make sure the criteria that we're using reflects how you would like to evaluate the city manager. I asked Bruce to do this earlier in the year, and he felt comfortable with the criteria that we are using. But particularly because this is a new council, looking at it with fresh eyes, if you have any changes that you would like the council and Bruce to consider, now would be a good time. So that's the first, I'm sorry?
Actually, I had a question. How long is this particular criteria?
How long is it? Do you mean what is the
No,
review period?
How long has it been used since it's been revised?
Yeah, so the bones of it, the majority of it have been ever since I have been your city attorney, which is coming up on 6 years, with, I would say, relatively minor amendments throughout the year.
But each year they've had a chance to make revisions.
Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, so a general outline of the process is that, we first, again, take a look at the criteria. We make changes typically at the end of the process from the year before. I have jotted down notes of changes that the council would like to consider for the coming year. I don't have any for this year, so I don't have any changes. Bruce doesn't have any changes. That doesn't mean members of the council won't. So that's sort of the first thing to do.
Is what we're looking at here the actual form?
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean,
yeah.
I have some experience with evaluations and I don't really understand how this form is used. In similar things I've seen, each of the questions, which I did read all the questions and I think we're, in pretty good shape with them. Maybe we have more time to look at them now, but it seems like most of the evaluations that I've been involved with had provided a numerical ranking for each of the questions. A 1 is unsatisfactory, a 2 needs some improvement, a 3 is satisfactory, meeting professional standards, 4 exceeding professional standards, something like that you can quickly pick, and then a line for a comment.
Right.
And so it feels like some work maybe on the form.
So let me explain the process. So those are things that we've considered throughout the years and the council has decided not to use. So when we originally started this process 6 years ago, it was a more traditional form where each one of these categories had a ranking of 1 to 5 and then a blank period or blank space underneath. And each counselor would fill it out individually. The mayor or typically the city attorney would make compilation, and that's what we would use for the city manager's evaluation. There are pluses and minuses to each way, but what the former councils have decided was that the numerical rankings really didn't have a lot of meaning to that council. That, because each counselor would score and then you would get, an average score. What necessarily would that tell the city manager? Does that help the city manager do better at his or her job? What if one city councilor believed that the city manager got a 5 in the category and another, counselor believed that he got a 1. So the average, was somewhere at 2.5. Does that numerical number help the city manager understand what he or she needs to do differently or what they excel in? And so the prior city council decided that number didn't have a lot of meaning to them. And so they deleted that from the evaluation.
So
Likewise,
like essay questions.
Yes.
well,
Let her explain the process.
Okay.
yeah. So likewise, again, it's speaking with a unified voice has been the council's goal in the past. So likewise, having each individual counselor fill out the evaluation form, they would each have different comments. They would each have different direction from the city manager. One would say, you know, I want you to respond to emails within a 24-hour period. Another counselor may say, I want you to focus on the big picture items. And some of the advice or some of the direction on these forms would be inconsistent. So what the former city councils have asked for was to do away with the essentially individual counselor filling out the form. So the process that we use now is at this meeting, we go over what the criteria would be. So how are we going to evaluate? How is the council going to evaluate Bruce? Once we establish that criteria, we have Bruce do a self-evaluation. So Bruce does, I'll tell you, like to do a little free form. So he definitely hits on each one of the categories, but does it in his Bruce way. And that has worked for prior city councils in the past. And then we meet in executive session as a body. And we go through the criteria and we go through Bruce's self-evaluation. And as a body, the city council provides direction to Bruce, looking at each one of those categories, goes through it and says, you know, here are Bruce's strengths and here are some of the opportunities. And we do it based on consensus. So, you know, in the past, I've done a lot of the taking of notes, you know, there's discussion and then the council decides, you know, what aspects they want to highlight on the evaluation. And so then I put together the evaluation form based on the consensus from the city council and provide that feedback to Bruce. Then we have a second executive session where Bruce meets with the council and discusses the contents of that evaluation. So at that time, if a counselor believes, you know, if a counselor had a perspective or had a direction that wasn't included in the formal evaluation of Bruce, he or she could share it during the executive session and there could be a discussion about it. But we don't have a situation where we have 5 different evaluations that could have inconsistent or divergent opinions or directions for the city manager. So that's the process that we have used in Cannon Beach. I'll tell you that each one of the cities I work with does it slightly differently. And, you know, it is what the council and working with Bruce decides works best for the city. But just to go over it one more time, very high level, we establish criteria. Bruce does a self-evaluation. The council meets in executive session, comes to consensus on the feedback they want to give Bruce. We give Bruce that feedback, and then we come back in an executive session and have a discussion with Bruce directly. And then the last piece is that under Oregon law, we can't discuss salary or compensation in executive session. So then we come out to open session. And if the council would like to adjust any salary or compensation, we do that in open session. So Gary, I know that you have a lot of questions, but any questions from Gary or anybody else in the council?
The first executive session, is that with Bruce present or not?
No, it's just with me and the council.
Huh. And the second executive session is everybody, including Bruce.
Yes.
My question would be for Nancy and Brandon. Is this process?
It works.
You've been through this
I
process.
think I think it's a very
Yeah, I
process.
wanted to commend Ashley for synopsizing why we wanted to change, because it was a numerical system when we started, and that's exactly why we decided to go off it.
It's a very thorough process. I think we're very candid when we're discussing in executive sessions, both of them actually. And it gives Bruce a chance to understand where we're coming from, why we say what we say. And he has the opportunity to respond. I find it, like I say, very thorough. I think it really does do a good job.
And, you know, since you're part of the council, you're more than welcome to suggest changes or, you know, modifications to it.
No, Ashley's explanation is great, and it's good hearing from you on this.
How about Mayor and Lisa? Any additional questions and concerns? Because I know you guys haven't gone through this process yet.
I've done plenty of evaluations in my time.
Fair.
And I think I like this format better than the numerical, just because people have different ways of meaning what's a 5 and what's a 1 and the purpose of an evaluation to me is for the person we're evaluating. It's not people evaluating them. It's for them to learn it and grow professionally. And so I think this format leads to that because it's a discussion. It's not a spreadsheet.
Okay. So if there's nothing else, I don't necessarily need any vote from the council this evening. What I would like is for the council to review the criteria and still make sure that that's what they want. And then it's going to probably not be until February, but if the council could provide me some sort of direction on information that would be helpful for them in making decisions about any merit increase that they could ask for. In the past, later in the process, the council has asked for a small compensation study of local city managers. Is that something you would like me to put together for this year? Or is there another piece of information would you like me to gather?
I would like the local information.
Okay.
Is there data on merit increases for city managers?
Yeah, I have to gather it, which is just, simply calling over to our HR department or to the city manager directly and asking what the city has done. It's all public record, so it can be gathered.
That would be helpful.
And then Bruce, anything to add from your perspective?
No, it was very well explained.
All right, so
Ashley, do you want to set a deadline for us to submit additional items for criteria?
yeah, so this is items going to appear on the agenda in January. And so
Okay.
you'll just be more prepared for
Okay,
that meeting.
gotcha.
So I'm imagining, and I haven't cleared this with Jen or Bruce, but on your January 2nd agenda is when we all establish the criteria and the timeline. So any changes, please bring to that meeting.
Okay. Anything else?
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. Okay, so next on the agenda, we have the monthly status report. Any questions?
Bring
Oh,
something up real quick.
Sure.
So we changed building. I'm sure you noticed in the monthly status report, we changed how we were tracking building. I did notice today when I was flipping through this that there is a slight error on this month's affordable housing excise tax. Because we put the note in here about how we take out 1%, but we actually don't retain in our housing account the 1%. Because 4% goes here, a certain percent goes there. So when I was looking at this, I just noticed before the meeting that that is the whole 1%, not just the portion we keep. So we'll modify that at the next
okay.
month's
Great.
report. And then also, if you guys don't like the revisions or want to see something different, please let us know.
I have a question on the trees. We had a location at 3947 South Hemlock. 16 trees were cut? Anybody here? Can anybody answer this?
Oh, there's a big development happening down there. I think it's where I'm thinking like those wooded areas that were lots and sold and looks like somebody's developing. And then there's a lot of skinny tall trees down.
Whereabouts is it? It must be clear down Tolavana somewhere.
Past Tolavon Hall.
Okay.
I can look and see if I can find anything real quick on the planning side of things.
Well, were the 16 trees taken out as part of a building permit application?
I'm gonna look and see if I can find the progress report real quick.
One.
That's freezing.
Yeah.
But that's,
Okay,
Yeah.
so there,
That might be the lot I saw the other day. It was for sale. Okay.
the trees are located on an undeveloped lot on South Hemlock. 16 trees have been requested to be removed to accommodate the construction of a single-family residence.
House?
It was a very thick stand of trees, Nancy. I know exactly where it is. It's already been done.
I'm gonna have to look at it.
Rock and Lila Wickham live,
No,
you know where the Wave Crest Inn is?
Yeah.
Across the street
It's-
from there.
I know where that is, yeah.
It's due north of that lot on the east side of Hemlock.
Oh, okay. Oh, I know which one I talked about, yeah.
But was it in conjunction with the building permit?
Yes.
So the building permit was granted and and that part of the building permit was the taking out of these trees was at the same time as the building permit was
Yeah,
granted.
so when you have a building permit, or if you have a tree removal permit that's in conjunction with a building permit,
Right,
we cannot issue that tree permit until the building permit is issued.
right.
And so that's what happened, because this says for the construction of a single family residence, and the criteria that they were were removed was under criteria A to construct a structure or development. So a building permit had to have been issued before they can issue the tree permit.
Okay.
And there's no requirement to replant anything.
No,
Not yet.
oh, actually, you know what, so that did not, and I'll follow up with planning on that side, because reading Jeff Gerhardt's report, he did recommend that 5 native trees be planted when the build is complete, so I'll follow up with planning to make sure we capture all of that details in there. But he does say replanting considerations were not given in the provide, okay, yeah, he recommends planting 5 native trees after the build is complete.
That's why our new tree permit is so important. I mean, and it's going to address all those things.
Okay, anything else on the monthly status report? Thank you for the revisions. I think once those numbers are right, that'll be a good way to do it.
We're almost there.
Yeah, we're almost there. Baby steps. Nothing else? Okay, mayor communications, I don't have anything to share except on Thursday, I have been invited to go to a tour of the new housing complex in Seaside, the Red Lion renovations.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm looking forward to seeing how that property is going to be made for some really good housing opportunities and some behavioral health as well. So I'll report back. Should be fun. Anybody have any council communications?
Well, the council had a communication and it hasn't been addressed yet from Beth Holland, the Holland Family Trust. And that was that they were asking for a specific action from the council.
I thought we were going to talk about that during good of the order. Okay.
I thought that was executive session material.
That's a separate, I know what you're talking about. That was separate.
This is the letter.
Different. This is the letter,
For the North Coast Land Council.
the letter from Beth
Okay,
Holland.
okay.
Yeah, so I know what you're talking, that's,
Yeah. I
yeah.
know what you're talking about. But we could talk about it right now.
Okay.
Want to?
Well, okay, so she sent a letter and she's asking for something specific from the city. She's asking the council, a request from the council to North Coast Land Conservancy to receive donations as of a 501c3 and fiscal agent. If the city requests that North Coast Land Conservancy do this, they most likely will, but they need a request from the city in order to put that forth. And this is to support the it's a long ways off, but the idea is that big parcel of property that the Hollands own up on the hillside eventually would end up as a reserve. You know, it would end up not being developed, it would end up, if they raise enough donations to purchase that property, eventually it would be turned over, sounds to me like to the city.
I think it's Oregon
Park.
Oregon Parks Recreation, don't they?
I thought that it was going to go to the state and then the state would
Right.
turn it over to the city, but I'm not sure about how that process works, but what it sounds to me like is if this whole process works, the city would end up with that big, incredible parcel of land that is right up, right above those houses, opposite the Rock
Yeah, I think we know where.
on the east side of Hemlock.
Mhm.
The hilly area.
Yep.
And it is, I've walked in there, it's amazing, beautiful. There's so many ifs in this thing, and it's if they can raise the money, if they can get the different donors to give money for this purpose, but I think I would like to see the city make that request to North Coast Land Conservancy.
Absolutely.
She also is looking for a letter of support to the Art Department, Park and Rec Communications as well. So she
To the
letter.
Parks Department, right?
Parks Department, yeah,
From the city.
from the city.
Right.
And she was hoping to have that, I believe the Park Department is meeting November 15th.
14th, I thought it was.
The 14th or
Yeah.
15th, so she was hoping to have that to be able to bring to their meeting.
Yeah, that's next Tuesday, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah,
That's really cutting it, but that's why I wanted to bring it up tonight, because it would have to happen pretty quickly. It'd be great. I hope that the city will do that. Who does when I say the city, who is it? Who's gonna do that letter?
Jason takes care of those letters.
the council has to agree to want to do the letter first.
Okay.
Right.
And
Would-
staff
yeah.
will work together with the mayor for the letters.
City, does the council want to do it?
I do.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
Somebody
both
does.
letters.
both letters. We all want it.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Okay, that would be super. Okay. And I have a bunch of things for good of the order, but I'll wait till you do that.
Yeah. Okay, so anything else on council communications?
The last 3 hours.
Okay, now we go to Lisa's favorite part of the meeting, the good of the order.
Okay. What I would like, a couple things. I remember that the planning commission brought up dark skies a while back and then it just sort of fizzled and disappeared. So what's the status of that? There seems to be nothing happening with that. Is there anything happening? Does anybody know?
I can't tell you if there's anything working at the staff level to support that right now. But it's something that we will put in front of them. In addition to all the other things we've got working.
They did hold a work session a few months ago, and I'm not sure where it ended up after that, but we can follow up with,
Yeah, thanks, Jen.
Well, I talked to people in planning to ask them where it did end up and they didn't seem to know either. So it seemed like it ended up very ambiguous. And I'd like to see it, I'm interested in seeing this move forward myself.
Talking about enforcement or
No.
changing the ordinance
Changing the
or
dark st- or deciding if we want a dark, if we want to
the dark sky.
embellish our dark sky ordinance. There's different ideas on the table for it, but right now it's like just disappeared into the ether. So I'm curious to see if we're gonna get it back. Can we add it to the our already incredibly full the
The code audit, well,
retreat thing?
oh, retreats.
Yeah.
so one of the things that the planning commission was tasked with was to look at our code and look at what makes you be compliant with dark skies to see what revisions need to be made. So that way we knew exactly what needed to be changed. And so we can definitely talk about it at the retreat. We can talk to Steve about following up with them and seeing
Okay.
if they're gonna do any groups. Because that's gonna be the first thing we need to find out is what do we need to do to actually be dark sky compliant?
Mhm.
Because we have some information, but not all of it currently in our code.
Okay, right. Yeah, we have some stuff and a lot of it, which is very confusing still to people. So,
So we'll start with the planning commission
Okay.
and
So
then we'll add it.
can we ask them to revisit it?
Yep.
Okay.
Because they were tasked, council tasked that to them.
Right.
So we could just shoot an email to Steve and just say.
Retask.
Retask, yeah.
Okay, and then the next thing is I am really confused about the affordable housing excise tax. I just can't figure out, I'd like someone to come back from staff and explain more of how it works, how much control we have as a community. Are we allowed to raise it for new construction? Are we allowed to say, I think we should have a higher affordable housing excise tax for new construction? Or can we not do it? Is it prohibited by the state from us doing that? And it just seems to me that with all these, a lot of large houses going in, expensive houses, and a lot of them as second homes, that I would like to see a more robust affordable housing tax, if we can do that, if that's possible. I
It
don't
was
know.
enacted by the council.
So then maybe I'd like to revisit whether or not this could be enhanced, or
Is this something that could go on our retreat agenda?
I think it's part of the housing discussion we're gonna have.
Yeah.
as part of the housing discussion. Yeah, I'd like to see that added. That would be great.
And I'll find out with Ashley if there's a maximum of what could be charged, because that will direct your conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it is controlled by the state in terms of what is taken out of that tax and what goes here,
Right.
goes there and so forth. Yeah.
Okay.
I believe I can answer some of that right now. We're talking about the construction excise tax. Is that what we're referring to?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I believe that is capped by statute at 1%.
Okay.
that's what I wondered. Okay,
I can get back to you on that, but I'm pretty sure that that is the case, that it's capped at 1%.
that's,
Yeah.
and by the state, that seems so weird to me, just because the state is the one who's stamping their feet and screaming and hollering about housing and the lack of housing, and we have a housing emergency and we need more housing. And so it seems kind of counterintuitive that the state would cap it at 1%.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about the history of it, but it says locally authorized construction excise taxes placed on residential construction are capped at 1% of the permit valuation for residential construction permits issued by the city or county. So we are preempted on state law. I can certainly find out more if you want to have continuing conversation. But I do think it's pretty prescribed by state law what we can and can't do.
And you have in front of you when that was enacted?
I believe it was 2016,
Okay. So it's been
and it
a
was
while.
Senate Bill 1533.
And I believe we started collecting July 1st of 2017, because that's when I got out of the building department.
It's a little.
Jail.
So I wonder if there's any kind of alternative tax with a different name that isn't the same.
But we're only gonna tax new people moving here,
New
new
construction,
building.
new construction. Yeah. I'm just curious. I don't know if there's any.
Yeah.
other-
I mean, I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to look at the preemption language in that statute, but if the council as a body would like to provide me or my office direction to do that research, we certainly can.
I'd sure like to. see
Yeah, I think
that.
I think that would be useful for us.
Okay, so let me make sure I understand. So if there's any tax that we can enact locally that is similar to the construction excise tax to be used for affordable housing.
And if you can give us a short answer without too much research about why it was capped at 1% and what the thinking was, what sort of like the legislative history of that was encapsulated. It doesn't have to be in great detail. Don't need to see all the, what different people said, just sort of a synopsis of why they stopped it at 1%. Of course, that was back in 2016, so that may have a lot to do with it, but.
Well, and then some of that money goes right back to the state, to their own affordable housing
Yeah, some
account.
of that 1%.
Well, we have heard the conversation about taxing second homes. So is that part of this conversation?
That's something different, I think.
It could be. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of, that's another angle that Ashley could look at for us. What, if that's even permissible? I don't know. I don't know if we can even do something like that.
I believe it's happening in some places.
It's happening in
Whether it's
Washington, but I don't.
state
think
of
it's
Oregon.
Allowed in Oregon, but
Yeah, but yeah, what,
I don't know.
I'd like to know if it was allowed,
Oh, you
if it is allowed in
You
Oregon.
know for sure it's happening in Washington. Oh, that's right. That's the example you should.
said,
No, I don't know that.
yeah, that the property taxes are higher, or the rate is higher on second homes.
Oh, that, I don't know if that was Washington or if that was actually Vancouver, BC I was talking
Oh,
about.
that's right.
Oh,
It was Vancouver, BC, which is a different country. No,
Okay,
no, so I mean, that's a whole different thing, but I'm just wondering if it's even legal or permissible or even something we could consider. I'm not saying we're gonna do it. I'm just saying,
It'd be nice to know the details, if it's
Yeah.
an option and what the
Yeah.
details.
Yeah, I think we'd have to get creative about it. I mean, obviously, property taxes are preempted by the state. The state sets, what can and can't be an ad valorem tax and what the maximum would be. But what I hear you asking is there a creative way that's not preempted by state law to raise additional money for affordable housing through construction of new housing. Is that it?
yes, exactly.
and Ashley, you might check Colorado. I think Colorado has a taxing system that we're talking about that's similar, that adds additional taxes to second homes.
I seem to recall it being a Colorado.
I think it was
Yeah.
a Colorado thing.
I think like most things, we're going to have to get around existing Oregon law. So,
Yeah.
Oregon has a very unique property tax system. So just because I think it goes without saying, just because something is permitted in Washington or Colorado doesn't necessarily mean
Right.
it would be here, but I think you're right that it's a good place to look.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be an Oregon, allowed in Oregon,
Oh, who knows?
But we gotta look.
but we.
Yeah. And then,
And this may take, I'm just going to say our office a little bit to get back to you.
that's fine. We've got a lot going on for the city.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that.
And Lisa's got more.
Oh, one more thing. Okay. Also,
me
I would
or-
like to- No, for Bruce, actually. I would ask Bruce if you would get us information on the Christian Conference Center on what properties they provide TLT for the city. How much it is, or what proportion of the TLT tax it is, and what properties that they rent out are considered part of their nonprofit status. So I'd really like to know the answers. I'd like us to look into that a little more and just see what's going on in the city regarding the Christian Conference Center. I know they are a huge landowner in the city, and even, I'm not just talking about downtown, I'm talking about other lands too in the vicinity. So I'm just curious to see what that is, and get a better handle on it.
Okay.
And I've looked, actually, I've done quite a bit of research and I haven't been able to figure it out.
Okay. Let's see what we can find.
Okay, thanks. Hey, that's it.
For Lisa, anybody
For
else
me.
have anything for good of the order? No? Okay, meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.